I'm showing you Bitcoin again because it hit almost $40,000 earlier this morning, and because the mayor of Miami wants to put some of the city's treasury reserves into Bitcoin. The mayor of Miami is Suarez, and he's with us now. Sir, welcome back to the show. You're putting government money into a very volatile cryptocurrency. You want to explain why you're doing that?
Sure. If I would have done it last year, I would have made 200+%. So I would have looked like a genius. But we want to be one of the most crypto forward and technological cities in the country. So we're looking at, number one, creating a regulatory framework that makes us the easiest place in the United States to do business if you're doing it in cryptocurrencies. We're looking at laws from Wyoming, Wisconsin, and New York, a regulatory environment. And we have a tremendous amount of interest in tech right now. So we're looking at a variety of things, from being able to make payments in crypto, in Bitcoin in particular, being able to pay your taxes, being able to pay fees to the city. And then, yes, we are looking at the possibility of diversifying our investment portfolio and having and holding a percentage of our investments in Bitcoin.
Is this all part of your move to bring high-tech companies, big tech companies to Miami? I know you've got good weather. I know you've got low taxes. Are you using a Bitcoin investment as a further inducement?
It is. I think, the world is watching, and the world is always seeing all the things that cities do. If you're inviting, that's something that cities are benefiting from, like we are. I want the creative and the innovative class to come here and create high-paying jobs for my residents. And certainly there is an enormously large crypto and Bitcoin community, particularly, on social media, and they are carefully watching as these assets become more and more mainstream. The more that organizations like the City of Miami and others mainstream Bitcoin, there's only one direction that the prices are going to go, because we know that the supply of money is limited. It's only going to go up.
You know, that gets everybody worried. When anybody says, oh, there's only one direction in which this investment can go, and that is up. I mean, look at the limited supply. It's bound to go up. You know, Your Honor, those could be famous last words, couldn't they?
They could be. And certainly if, some government entity decides to try to regulate it out of existence, that's always a threat, and that's always a possibility. But the reality is it's been, although it is volatile, and I will admit that it is, it just dropped a certain percentage. It went down to 36,000. Now it's already back up in almost a week to its high of 41,000. The fact that it is limited, the fact that, other governments use currencies to do a variety of things that have nothing to do necessarily with the exchange of goods, but to implement public policy, I think has made Bitcoin a very attractive investment for many people.
Welcome to CryptoBanter.com. I'm Crypto Man Run, and usually we come to you at 10 a.m. EST with our normal programming. But today we've got a very, very, very special show for you guys. Yes, guys, we've got the mayor of Miami, Suarez, coming to us right here on a crypto show. It's such an honor to have him. And for those of you who know me, you know that I moved to Miami recently. And if you've ever been to Miami, you know that it's absolute paradise. I mean, not only is it the most beautiful place in the world with the best weather, an incredible vibe, a cosmopolitan city with the most amazing people, but it also has the coolest mayor. And now it's becoming a tech hub. And more specifically, the mayor is focusing on getting the blockchain community to come to Miami. So it gives me a great honor. It's a great pleasure to have Mayor Suarez right here on CryptoBanter.com. Mayor, welcome to CryptoBanter.com.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be with you. And thank you so much for calling me the coolest mayor. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned to you when we were chatting before, for me, you were one of the main reasons why I moved to Miami. I don't know if you remember, but we met when I was at CNBC, and we did an interview, and we're actually going to play it for you just to remind you. This is when I met you at a blockchain.
The mayor is here bringing Miami onto the blockchain.
Mayor, welcome to our show.
Mayor, welcome to our show. Thank you so much. Great to be here with you.
Mayor, as someone who's in a position like this, and speaking about the blockchain and crypto, you're actually looking at two things. You're
using blockchain
to implement services in the city.
At bringing blockchain talent to the city to work in the city. Let's talk about the first one first. Using blockchain and technology to make the city a better place. What are you guys doing?
Well, what we're doing is we're becoming more tech-oriented just generally as an organization. We're a $1 billion company with 4,500 employees.
We've done things like gunfire detection systems, to electronic plans, to resiliency initiatives. And all of that involves the ability to use the blockchain and get our data in a place that's transparent, that's decentralized, and that's accountable.
So that's when we met, and I guess by that point you already had a vision of bringing the tech scene to Miami. When did this thinking start that you really wanted to migrate technology to Miami?
It really started about 10 years ago. I met with a friend who was previously a real estate investor, a guy named Manny Medina. And what Manny Medina did in our city was he created one of the first data centers actually ever built. And it was a network access point. At one point, I was told that 70% of the internet traffic flowed through his network access point. He ultimately ended up selling that business to Verizon for $1 billion and created a capital company and a family office involved in data and cybersecurity tech. So that was he was the first sort of Miami unicorn, if you will, Miami pioneer that really made it possible to think that Miami could be a place where you could grow a tech company and sell a tech company. And I think the second part was, as I became a father, I realized that the economy of today and tomorrow is tech-based. I mean, everything that we're doing right now, we're having this conversation. You know, I'm on a laptop, you're in a studio. We're not in the same place. The world has changed, and the world has changed rapidly and is being disrupted rapidly. And as a mayor, one of your biggest goals is to create the kind of economy in your city and to prepare your city for the kind of economy that oftentimes is the world economy. And to me, it is inevitable that every single day that goes by, technology becomes a greater and greater part of our lives. And so it was a no-brainer. I think every city in the world, not just in America, in the world, needs to be growing their tech ecosystem. And that's why I took this initiative, and been on this, strategic investment initiative for many years.
Okay, so if you've been on this for many years, what was it that actually made it much more successful? Now, when you look at the migration of people to Miami, and I can certainly say that, when I've been to Miami historically and when I've come back now, there are a lot more people in Miami. The city is much more populated. The prices has gone up. Was the COVID virus a catalyst? Was it a case of people going, hold on a second, we don't actually need to live in New York where the apartments are small and the weather's bad. We can actually live in a city with less taxes and everything else. Was COVID that one catalyst that basically got it?
I think it was. If you look back, the SALT deduction was a big deal. When the SALT deduction went away in the tax law, I think people who lived in states with a high cost of living and high taxes now had to pay an additional 13% in taxes. I think that began the New York migration to Miami. I think COVID really created this Silicon Valley migration. And the reason why was because of the advent of remote working and people understanding that they can be just as productive from anywhere in the world. And that became normal, right? Before, if you were working from some other place, it was unusual. Then it became, during COVID, it became sort of the norm. So I think you're right. I think that the fact that people now can work wherever they want and COVID has created that opportunity. It's also created the ability for people to take risks because obviously the market is not the same. People are viewing this as a moment of inflection. And so I think that's given people an opportunity to make sort of life-changing decisions that otherwise they wouldn't have felt safe enough to make.
So if I remember correctly, this whole thing started with a tweet where there was a tweet that said, what if we could move Silicon Valley to Miami? And I think you replied and said something like, "How can I help?" How can you help, and how successful has this migration been? Have people actually been moving? Are you seeing the fruits of your efforts?
Yes, we are. I've right after that tweet, which got 2.3 million generic impressions, organic impressions, wow. I went on a Twitter binge where I did in the next, I think that was on December 4th or 5th. And for the remainder of, there was December 4th, for the remainder of that month until the 31st, I tweeted over 800 times and got over 27 million impressions for the tweets that I made. And I think what's important is we have this confluence of factors happening that have never happened anywhere in the history of the US, which is you have hedge funds and private equity coming from New York and founders like Keith Robois and so many others coming from Silicon Valley, as well as VCs, people from Andreessen Horowitz here in Miami. It's an incredible critical mass. Blackstone, which just signed a big lease. Microsoft is rumored to be signing a big lease. So it is, it's a big deal what's happening.
It seems like you've taken a very proactive approach. I mean, I don't see other mayors meeting with small blockchain companies and VCs. Tell us about the approach. And we've seen some blockchain names, some big names like Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, but also some smaller names like the Elrond Network. When you meet with these people, is it like almost like a sales pitch for coming to live in Miami? Talk me through one of those meetings.
It is a sales pitch. And I think what's happening is, as you correctly identified, there aren't any mayors doing this, which is why it's so much fun, frankly. It's been a clear runway. And it's really astonishing, quite frankly, that nobody else has figured this out, that no one has identified this opportunity, number one, or B, sort of jumped on the bandwagon. Some have tried smaller cities to sort of, and I'm helping some, like I'm helping the mayor of Boca, I'm helping the mayor of Fort Lauderdale and others that are coming together on a regional approach. But for me, first, I'm the kind of person that I try to be very accessible. So anytime someone reaches out to me and says, hey, they want to come and meet with me, I try to the best of my ability and time to be able to meet with them. And so I think that's been a big part of the success. And that's why you see a variety of people, different kinds of, diverse set of people. Today I'm going to be interviewing David Beckham on one of my Cafecito talks. So, we have a diverse set of people. We have people that are obviously super, super well known, like the Winklevoss twins, Cameron and Tyler, who are phenomenal. To people who, like you said, Benjamin, who are trying to build the Elrond blockchain network. So, and he came from Romania all the way to meet with me. So it's been inspiring to see so many innovators coming here and converging on Miami.
Now, in a typical meeting with these guys, with Benjamin, with Tyler and Cameron, what is the discussion about? Is this, how can I help you set up in Miami? Talk me through the typical meeting that you're having with these guys.
That's a part of it. I think the other part of it is understanding that, learning from them, right? What is it that we need to do here in Miami to be successful? And I talked a little bit about it in the Fox interview. We're looking at the regulatory environment in New York and the legislative environment in Wyoming and Wisconsin to make sure that we have the most crypto progressive laws. So that's something that we can control. It's not something that even costs money. It's just about researching what other states are doing and implementing the same thing. I've always felt that if all things are equal, and you're a good example of this, if all things are equal, Miami's going to win. Because I don't think if the laws are the exact same in Florida and the exact same in Wyoming, I don't think someone's going to pick Wyoming over Florida. So, I think, Wyoming was smart to get ahead of it and try to be progressive and created an advantage for themselves. And that's what good government should be doing. They should be looking for competitive advantages. And that's what I'm trying to do.
But when I look at other mayors and other governors, they don't seem as entrepreneurial as you are. What is it that's made you be so entrepreneurial about your city? I mean, it sounds like you're treating this as a business. Like you're doing a sales pitch, you're recruiting customers, you're showing customer satisfaction. That's not the typical approach that, say, is taken by de Blasio, for example.
Well, it's because I am an entrepreneur. I mean, I had a small business for 11 years. And I understood, I understand what it's like to live in a world where you can only eat what you kill, which is what happens often in small businesses. And you're living, customer to customer. So for me, that's a big part of what I've always done. I've come from the private sector. And I also feel that, oftentimes what happens in government, or what's lacking in government, is a lack of hospitality, training, a lack of how can we help you? Our job in government is to facilitate. Our job in government is to make life easier for people. Our job in government is to help people get from point A to point B. It's so easy in government to say, no, we can't do it. It's not in our wheelhouse. It's not in our purview. And one of the things I've always done since I started in government about 11 years ago was train my staff. We never say no. At worst, you say yes, but, right? Yes,
a real entrepreneur. Like, this is a real entrepreneur saying, we never say no. We find a solution for our customers or for our residents. Mayor, why is it specifically that you're looking at blockchain? It looks like when we follow your tweets, yes, you've got to focus on financial services, and yes, you've got to focus on tech. And actually, I read a stat that the number of Uber rides in Miami actually overtook the number of Uber rides in San Francisco for the first time ever, which is a great stat. But what is it about blockchain, or is there a focus on blockchain?
There's a focus on blockchain and there's a focus on cryptocurrencies. I think cryptocurrencies, because they're not manipulatable by government. And when we start seeing massive injections of government spending, which dilutes the price of the dollar, I think people are going to gravitate more and more to cryptocurrencies. In terms of blockchain, what you're always looking for in government is transparency and accountability. And so what blockchain delivers is a decentralized way and secure way of having, transactions that can be verified and that are decentralized so that they can't be hacked. And I think when you start to see, hacks on governments, it becomes more and more imperative to make sure that your information is decentralized and is managed in a transparent format. Government is all about transparency.
Okay, and I mean, I'm interested to understand how you got into Bitcoin, when the first time you heard about Bitcoin and blockchain was, and how you responded to it. I mean, did you take the same response as most people or most politicians, where they got very scared of it, or did you embrace it?
No, I've always embraced it from the first moment. I'm a finance undergrad. I come from a mathematical family. My dad was a mechanical engineer. His dad, my grandfather, was the dean of the engineering college of Vienna University. So I understood the concepts and the mathematics behind the concepts. So that's why for me it was always attractive. And the issue with something like crypto and even with the blockchain is utilization, right? And the more broad-based utilization, the more mainstreaming, the more valuable it becomes. I understand, why people would say, well, you can't say that something's only going to go up. And the truth is that simple economics dictates that unless some outside factor influences it, like some other cryptocurrency becomes very, very popular, or there's some regulatory framework that kills Bitcoin, there is no other way for Bitcoin to go but up right now.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at the guys that are printing money, the stimulus checks, I mean, obviously as a mayor, you're looking at it on the one side and saying, look, the people of Miami, like everybody else in the US, do need stimulus because businesses are being closed.
Sure.
But on the other hand, you must look at this and say, hold on, they really are devaluing the dollar, and we can't keep printing money like this. Tell me what goes through your head as a politician when you see this happening.
It's a tough situation, and I'll tell you why. And it's a conversation that we have to keep having, right? And I think, I'm anxious to have that conversation with you and with Tyler and Cameron, people that I respect, because I understand the idea of having a finite money supply and maintaining the integrity of your currency. At the same time, there are emergency situations, like, for example, when we had to bail out the big banks, who would have created a far greater human calamity than had we not intervened. So that's the problem that I struggle with, because intervention, even though maybe in the economic sense is probably not a great idea, in the sociological sense and in terms of creating an ordered and peaceful society, it may save wars, it may save famines, it may save massive amounts of crime, because you maintain the stability. You call it sort of the homeostasis of society.
Yeah. And I mean, do you see the US being able to recover from printing so much money? I mean, I read a statistic that about 25% of all the dollars in circulation were printed last year, and that's only going up with the Joe Biden administration and much more stimulus. I mean, can the US actually recover the dollar from something like this?
It'll be interesting to see. And it'll be interesting to see whether the U.S. government gets into crypto itself, right? And there's been talk about the U.S. government creating a Fed coin and its own sort of cryptocurrency. And that may end up being one of the biggest threats to Bitcoin in the future. But I think what happens is there's a saying, and it's kind of a funny joke, right? If you owe the bank $1 million and you can't pay, you have a problem. If you owe the bank $100 million and you can't pay, the bank has a problem. So the issue with the United States and its debt is that it's so overwhelming, and it's held primarily by China, that frankly, the whole entire world's economy is dependent on us issuing debt and paying debt. The way I look at it is from a macro perspective is really not so much what could happen if we default or something like that. It's really more of what are the sociological and geopolitical implications of the debt. I think in terms of payment and our children and what they'll be saddled with, I believe it'll be worked out in some way, form, or fashion, because the U.S. is still the biggest economy in the world, and everybody's dependent on us. But we'll see how it goes going forward. But I sincerely hope so.
Okay, I mean that's a great answer. Now you talked about buying Bitcoin using the city of Miami's money. I want to ask you first of all, is that something that you are really considering, or is that something that you went onto TV because you wanted to lure blockchain people? Can we really expect the city of Miami to start putting some of its treasury into Bitcoin? And then the next question is, are you personally holding Bitcoin? Have you been personally holding Bitcoin?
So the answer to your first question is I am absolutely considering doing it. And I think there's a lot of reasons why it makes sense, not just from the investment perspective, but I do think that there is a bit of a marketing component, right? To showing and demonstrating and putting our money where our mouth is, so to speak, even if it's not a large position. And frankly, we have to look at what is our risk profile, because regardless of crypto, there are some assets. It doesn't really matter whether it's crypto or Bitcoin or what it is. We have a risk profile that we have to stay within, probably legally, and so that will determine the outcome. But the answer is yes. I'm very serious about considering it, and if it's within our risk profile and we're able to do it, I don't see why we wouldn't. It wouldn't be any different than having Israeli bonds or any other kind of investment that I think has a positive signaling effect for your city. And in terms of the other, let's just say that me and my family are big fans of a variety of cryptocurrencies.
Amazing. So you're an altcoin trader. Is that what you're saying? You trade?
We're up. We're doing well. We're up this year.
Well. I must ask you, I mean, other than Bitcoin, what other cryptocurrencies do you look at?
Ethereum is one that obviously I've looked at. And then, there's a variety of other ones. I stick right now probably to those two, just because of my time commitment and my ability to spend time on researching the different, changes in the varieties of them. And so, look, and there is things that you do have to be careful and do your due diligence. So I think that's something that I pride myself on doing.
Yeah. Look, I think if for someone who's not in the game, if you hold the two big ones, they've got the network effect and they'll probably succeed. Mayor, implementing blockchain in the city systems for things like identity and medical records and stuff like that, stuff that's not on a federal level. Have you guys started to make any progress in anything like that on the blockchain?
We're looking at it. We're looking at what the cost would be and how it would be implemented. You have to understand that when I got elected, I took over for a mayor who was in his 70s. So a good guy, but, a generation ago. And so I've been implementing generational change. And sometimes it's like moving a big cruise ship. It takes a little time and it's a little slow. But I've been pushing the envelope. We started with the e-plans, as you saw in one of the videos. I think it was a video that you interviewed me in. We're now creating something called eStart, where you can start your business from your computer and directly from your phone, which never existed in the city of Miami, believe it or not. And so we're trying to be as innovative as possible, and certainly utilizing the blockchain is something we're looking at.
Amazing. Mayor, I want to ask you, how can the blockchain community help you in what you're doing? I know you keep asking how you can help us, and it looks like that's what you're doing, but what help do you need from the blockchain community? How can we help you and help us build the city of Miami? As you know, I've moved there and I'm becoming very passionate about the city. I love the city. How can we help you?
I think there are multiple ways. One is, number one, tell your story, your Miami story on your social media. Talk about why Miami is great and why it's helping you build your company and grow your company. Secondly, keep in touch with us. If there are government solutions that we should be looking at and ideas that I should be looking at as an elected official, please send me those ideas. We want to be as forward thinking as humanly possible. So, tell your Miami story. Keep on our radar, and if there's anything that we need to know or should be doing, let us know.
Great, Mayor Francis Suarez, it's been a great pleasure interviewing you, a great pleasure seeing you again, and hopefully next time I see you, it'll be back in the city of Miami over a cup of coffee.
Absolutely, brother. Come on in.
Thank you for making the time, my friend.
You got it.
And that is the end of our interview with Mayor Suarez of Miami. What an amazing mayor. I mean, he is just the coolest guy. He is really the blockchain mayor. This is a guy who's progressing blockchain. I mean, he even admitted to owning some altcoins. How's that? A mayor owning some altcoins and talking about bringing more of his city and more of his residents into Bitcoin. And that's exactly the type of mayor that we need. So I'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same place, 10 a.m. EST, right here on CryptoBanter.com. Until then, if you are trading, trade well, my friends.
Crypto Banter is a social podcast for entertainment purposes only. All opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers should not be construed as financial advice. Views expressed by guests and hosts do not reflect the views of the station. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research.